Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to do a little third grade lesson about multiplication and the use of equal groups to display or represent multiplication. All right, so now when we're talking about multiplication, one of the things that we need to remember about multiplication and equal groups of multiplication is that we represent it. One way to think about it is rows by columns, and the other way is another one is groups by items. All right, so how many groups and how many items in each group, or how many rows and how many columns. Okay, so now let's go ahead and jump into number one. It says Kathy planted 7 rows of 7 flowers in each row. How many flowers are in Kathy's garden? So this one we have rows and the number of flowers in each row. So this is a rows by columns. Now, there are gonna be 7 rows and 7 flowers in each row. All right. So here are our rows. I'm gonna just use X's. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And remember, rows go left to right. Okay? Rows go left to right. And to figure out how many, we would have to count all of this up. That would be a total of 49. Okay? Now, when we write our equation in our solution, we're going to represent, I'm going to show 3 different ways to represent multiplication. So we can write it as the traditional way, 7 times 7 using the X. Or you can write 7 times 7 using a dot. Or you may see parentheses, 7 times 7. Okay, all of these equal 49. After we count them up, because 1 row, 2 row, that's 14. Add another 7, that's 21. 21 plus 7 is 28. 28 plus 7 is 35. 35 plus 7 is 42. And 42 plus 7 is 49. All right. Now, just verbally explaining our thinking, we can write out our statement to say 7 rows with 7 flowers in each row is a total of 49 flowers. Let's take a look at B. B says Kathy says she planted 6 by 8 flowers, or 6 times 8 flowers in her garden. Describe what Kathy's flower garden might look like. We have 6 rows with 8 flowers in each row. So this would be this is the first row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we got to do the next row. All right, so there are our 6 rows with 8 items in each row, which is going to give us a grand total of 48 when we count all of it up. So writing our equation, we could write our equation to say 6 times 8, or we're going to say 6 times 8, or we may see 6 times 8. Sometimes you may see one of the numbers not in the parentheses, so you may see it as 6 times 8. All right. And our grand total for 6 times 8 is equal to 48. Now, when we get back to explaining our thinking, the way that we can describe what her garden looks like, we can describe it as a garden of 6 rows and 8 flowers in each row. And 8 flowers in each row is a total of 48 flowers. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 3. The number 3 is a multi-select response, which means there are more than one correct answer. Kathy says she planted 54 flowers in a rectangular shaped garden. Circle the expressions that could be used to represent this garden. Before we do that, I want to rewrite. We want to practice rewriting each of these 2 other ways. All right. A says 6 times 6, so we're going to rewrite that. 6 times 6. Or we can say 6 times 6, which equals 36. Okay? And when using our multiplication chart, here's 6 right here. 6 times 6. That's where they both overlap, where they intersect, and that is 36. Okay? Our next one, we have 6 times 9, so we can write it as 6 times 9. Or we can say 6 in parentheses, 9 in parentheses. And if we want to figure out what that equals, 6, here's 6 by 9. And we want, where do they intersect? They intersect right here at 54. So 6 times 9 is 54. The next one is 5 times 9. So we can write it as 5 times 9 with the dot. Or we can say 5 in outside the parentheses, 9 in parentheses. And what does that equal? Well, here's 5. The row 5. And then our column is 9. And where do they intersect? At 45. So 5 times 9 is 45. Next is 9 times 5. So this is going to be 9 times 5 using the dot. I'll write it as 9 times 5 this way with each one in parentheses. Now, the cool thing here is that 9 times 5 is the same as 5 times 9. So C and D will ultimately give us the same product, which is 45. And now we take a look at 9 times 6. And once again, the cool thing here is that 9 times 6 is the same as 6 times 9. So 9 times 6 is the same as 6 times 9, which is 54. Okay. Now, going back to our initial question, it says, circle the expressions that could be used to represent the garden where Kathy says she planted 54 flowers. Looking for here. The 54 flowers is the answer we're looking for. Answer B and answer choice E were the 2 correct answers, okay? Number 4, this is a table response. It says, Kathy is going to plant 24 flowers in a garden. Complete the following table to show different ways Kathy could plant her flowers. Now, that means we want to know what rows and columns when you multiply them, what numbers that when you multiply them give you 24. So we want the factors of 24. And one of the first factors you should always write is that 1 times anything is itself. So 1 times 24 is 24. Now, to look for other factors, we need to go over to our table. Let's just look for 24s in our chart. And we have a 24 here. Oops, let me use a different color. Let me use the white. Here's a 24 there. There's another 24. Another 24. Let's see. Here's a 24 there. Now, because this multiplication table does not go to 12, I will go ahead and add in the other 2 rows. All right. So now going back to this chart here, now that we've completed and extended our times tables chart to include our 11s and 12s times tables, we'll also see that we have 24s down here and we have a 24 over here to the right. All right, and let me circle this one down here at the bottom a little better. So we have a few 24s now. What we need to make sure we do here is write out the multiplication facts that go along with it. And looks like the rest of them are just going to be repeats, but with the numbers switch, which is an example of our community property. So we could write it as, okay, we could write those, but we're just going to focus on these first four here. And out of those first four, the three that we really we'll choose to write inside of our chart here will be the three pink ones. So, okay. All right, let's take a look at number 5. Amy has 7 bags. Each bag has 4 cookies. How many cookies does Amy have? All right, well, let's draw it out.
7 bags. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And 4 cookies in each bag.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have our 7 bags, our 4 cookies, which basically means 7 times 4. And if I'm using my multiplication chart over here, let me get rid of all of this other extra stuff.
All right, if we're doing 7 times 4, 7 rows, here's my 7, and then here's my 4 columns. And where do they intersect? Right here at 28. So 7 times 4 is 28. So she has 28 cookies. 28, let's write that out as a complete
answer. We can say that she has 28 cookies. All right, number 6. Number 6 says, draw an array to represent the following repeated addition sentence. Arrays are basically rows by columns. So they want us to have, we're going to have 5 rows, and then each row, we're going to have 8 markings. So
there's 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows, 5 rows.
So now that we have our 5 rows, now I'm going to put 8 markings in each row.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I put a slash to each one. Make them stand out just a little bit more. So
here's my array. My 5 groups with 8 items in each group. And really, so this represents 5 times 8, or we could write it as 5 times 8, or we could write it as 5 times 8, which equals 40. Okay. Number 7, the last one. It says, write an equation to represent the following array. Here are rows, and here are our columns. So let's count it. We have how many rows? 1, 2, 3. So that's 3 times, and then how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 columns, which is a total of 18.